Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me in this webinar. My name is Hiba. I'm a speech and language therapist at Hope Abilitation Medical Center. Today, you will be discussing developmental difficulties that interfere with school success. First of all, we all know that schools are absolutely fantastic at helping children academically, but we are sure that a teacher's job doesn't just end here. Teachers help children with their problem-solving skills, with their social development, and with the character building. One of the major causes that can affect children at school is developmental delay. First, we need to start defining a developmental delay. So, what happens when a child has a developmental delay? Developmental delay is when a child doesn't reach their developmental milestones at the expected time. If the child is temporarily lagging behind, that's not called developmental delay. A delay can occur in one or more areas, for example, gross or fine motor, language, social, or thinking skills. Developmental delays can have many different causes, such as genetic causes like Down syndrome or complication during pregnancy and birth. However, sometimes the specific cause is unknown. Some causes can be easily reversed if caught early, such as hearing loss from chronic ear infections. So now let's try to explain the common causes of school difficulties. One of the most frequent difficulties that we see at school is the learning disabilities that are defined as an impaired ability in reading and writing, and it's not related to a low intelligence. Another major difficulty is the intellectual disability. Other difficulties include speech and language impairment or speech and language delay. Children who have speech and language impairment or delay might develop in the future school difficulties. So someone has just mentioned that you can't hear me. Is it clear now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I will check if there is any technical problem. Oh, okay. Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Great. Okay, so yeah, I was just talking about speech and language impairment. So yeah, children who have speech and language impairment or delays might develop school difficulties if the speech and language impairment is not treated at a young age. Other factors such as emotional problems or family problems and behavior problems might cause school difficulties. And attention deficit disorder or ADHD is also one of the major difficulties that might affect school success. And other medical problems might also affect children at school. So in many cases, school difficulties in childhood are precursors to dropping out of school. For example, personal factors such as language disorders or attention deficits and difficulties with recognizing and using the sound of spoken words at school are predictors of academic difficulties and might affect children at school. Now, let's try to explain what are the common difficulties that we see in school children. Children in school might have autism, ADHD, sensory processing disorders, reading and writing impairments, brain injury, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. So these are some of the main difficulties that you might observe in children at school. Let's start by autism. So what is autism? Autism or autism spectrum disorder refers to a broad range of cognitive of conditions characterized by challenges with social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech and nonverbal communication. We all know that there is not only one type of autism, but we have different type of autism and different levels of autism. So what are the symptoms of autism that you might observe in school children? First, children who have autism face difficulties when it comes to social communications. Around a third of people with autism are nonverbal. The other part of children with autism are verbal, but they face difficulties when it comes to using language. They also have difficulties at the level of nonverbal language, such as using gestures or eye contact or facial expression. Additional social challenges can affect recognizing emotions or seeking emotional comfort from others or feeling overwhelmed in social situations, taking turn in conversations. In children with autism, we also observe restricted and repetitive behaviors, such as repetitive body movements or repetitive motions with objects, or staring at lights or spinning objects. So these symptoms are observed with children with autism. So now I will just talk about some technique and some that can help children with autism and or some therapies that are used to help children with autism. So when it comes to autism, a number of therapies can help people with autism improve their abilities and reduce their symptoms. And it's also important to start therapy early during preschool. And there is no one type of therapy for children with autism. Some therapies are based on developing social communication and language skills. Other therapies focus on helping children to communicate using AAC, and they are used with children who are nonverbal. So it depends on the type of autism we have and the difficulties the child has. And of course, we all know that therapies need we should add ideas that can help children at home and at class, because therapy alone might not be helpful for children if a continuous support is not provided at home. So at home, we can help children by, for example, using their name at the beginning of each instruction to help them with their communication skills. Make sure we get a response before continuing the instruction, such as making sure that the child is looking at us or we are having his eye contact. We can also give plenty of time for the child to process the information, and give the child a routine, a specific routine, because building a routine help these children. Also, the use of visual schedule can be beneficial for children. Now let's talk about ADHD. ADHD is also one of the observed difficulties in schools. So what's ADHD? ADHD is a disorder that makes it difficult for a person to pay attention and control impulsive behaviors. The symptoms of ADHD begin in childhood. ADHD can continue through adolescence and adulthood. So now we know that hyperactivity tends to improve as a child becomes a teen, but problems with inattention and poor impulse control often continue through the teen years and in adulthood. So what are the symptoms of ADHD? First symptom is inattention. So it means that a child or a person lacks of attention. He has difficulty sustaining focus and feels disorganized. The second symptom is the hyperactivity. So the person who has ADHD needs to move around constantly, including in situations in which it's not appropriate to move. And the third symptom is impulsivity. So a person who has ADHD makes actions that occur in the moment without first thinking about them. Support and therapies for children with ADHD. It includes first medication and medication. So it's the one of the first thing that we should go for. There is also the psychotherapy. It might also help, but most of the time we use a combination of different approaches and different kind of therapy. So we need the medication, we might need the occupational therapy, we might need psychotherapy treatment. So it depends on every child. And also, it's recommended to start therapies as soon as you suspect your child or your student has ADHD. It's recommended to refer him for the appropriate therapist. And also at home, we can help children with ADHD at home and in the class. So it could be beneficial for children to keep a routine and to use a visual schedule. So keeping the same routine every day is helpful for them. And we can use a visual schedule at home and keep it in a place where the child can access this schedule and can feel more organized regarding the tasks that he has to do. And whenever we are talking to children with ADHD, we need to be clear and consistent. We need to help them maybe process the information we are providing, and we need to help them process the message and the information. And it's also important to praise them and to reward them when they follow the rules, because most of the time they expect criticism, so it's good to praise the good behavior. So another difficulty or another major challenge that we see in children, in school-age children, is dyslexia. So first, we all know that dyslexia is a learning difficulty that affects reading and writing and spelling, and it's not related to an intellectual disability or to a low intelligence. Most of the time, it's related to other factors. So in order to diagnose dyslexia, first we have to collect all the information related to the background of the child. We have to rule out intelligence impairment, oral language skills, and after ruling out these problems, we can conduct a standardized assessment for dyslexia that evaluate word recognition and decoding and reading ability. And also, it's important to evaluate prerequisites for reading and writing, such as phonological awareness and reading fluency. And the last thing that we should assess and we should observe in dyslexia assessment is reading comprehension. Because sometimes whenever a child has, sometimes if a child has difficulty reading or decoding, it might affect his ability to comprehend what he is reading. So, what are the symptoms of dyslexia? In preschool children, we observe difficulties at the level of speech and language. So, most of the time, they have delay in speech development compared to other children of the same age. So yes, they have speech difficulty such as difficulty pronouncing long words and using their expressive skills. They also have difficulties at the level of phonological awareness, such as identifying rhyming words and conducting syllable awareness activities and phonological awareness activities. In school children, so it's the school age. At this age, children learn to read and to write. So we will start observing problems with learning their names and identifying sounds and letters. And we will observe other problems with phonics, such as blending and reading sight words. Other problems might be observed, such as visual confusions when it comes to letters that are similar. And with older children, the fluency of reading is affected, so the child might not be fluent in reading, so he might read slowly, and he will have poor handwriting skills and slow writing speed. In teenager and adults, other difficulties are observed, such as difficulty planning and writing essays or letters or reports, difficulties for revising for examinations, trying to avoid reading and writing whenever it's possible. So, how can we help children with dyslexia at home or at school? So at school, different approaches are used with children with dyslexia, and there is one common thing with this approach is that we have to follow a structure phonic approach. We have to work on phonics, we have to work on spelling rules, so in a structured way and by using all the visual inputs and auditory inputs. And it's also important to work on the prerequisites that help children with reading and writing, such as phonological awareness. So now let's go to sensory processing disorder. It's also one of the major difficulties that we can observe in children, school-age children. So what is sensory processing disorder? It's a condition in which the brain has trouble receiving and responding to information that comes through senses. Before it was called, so formally it's called sensory integration dysfunction, and it's not recognized as a medical diagnosis. Yes. So anyone would like to ask a question or? So if you would like to ask any question, please don't hesitate to type it in the chat. Okay, I will continue. So what are the symptoms of SPD? First, we have the sensory avoiding. Kids who are sensory avoiding may react to a wide range of triggers. These can include loud sounds, uncomfortable clothing, crowded spaces, or certain food smells or textures. Children who have SPD might feel sensory overloaded, and this can lead to sensory meltdowns. So they might be overwhelmed by specific people, by certain places or certain environments, such as crowded environments. And they might be bothered by bright lights or refuse to wear uncomfortable clothing and might avoid touching people or hugging them. They might have strong reaction to the texture or smell of certain food. So another symptom that we observe in children with SPD is the sensory seeking. So children who have SPD are undersensitive to sensory input, and so they might be undersensitive to sensory input, and they often have a need for movement. They may seek an input like spicy or sour taste and physical contact and pressure. So they might have undersensitive to sensory input, and they might seek specific inputs. They might also need to constantly touch objects, or they might have high tolerance for pain and constantly need to move. So it depends on every child. So we might not find all these symptoms uh, with all children. They might not have all these symptoms, but this here we have a summary of symptoms that you might observe. Yeah. Ah, okay.
They're raising their hands.
No. Okay. Anyone has any question? Okay. I'm listening to you. Miss Ferial, I'm listening to you. We can't hear you, Miss Ferial. I don't know if you are trying to ask your question, but maybe you can type it in the chat. You're not able to unmute in order to ask question. Oh, they are not able to do unmute. Okay, so we are trying to fix the problem. You are trying to fix it now. Maybe there is a technical problem. Okay. So just send your question in the chat and I will answer because maybe it will not work. I sent my question already and a teacher. Ah, okay. Okay, now I can. Okay, now I can have access to your question, so I will read it and then I will answer it. Okay. As a teacher in an inclusive class, how should we deal safely with a child with ASD that throw tantrums? Okay. Thank you for your question. So yeah, throwing tantrums is a common symptom that we observe in children with ASD. So first thing we should try to identify why is the child throwing tantrums, because usually children with ASD throw tantrums whenever they are. I mean, usually there is specific. There are specific triggers that might lead a child to throwing tantrum. So we need to identify why he's throwing tantrums. So these factors could be related to the environment. So maybe he's feeling overwhelmed in the class. Maybe he needs to have a break time. Maybe the activity we are presenting or the task is difficult for him, or maybe it could be related to some personal factors such as the child is tired. So yeah, first we need to identify the trigger, and then we will provide the child with adequate support. Um, I don't know if I have answered your question or you would like to know more about this.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so my name is Reman. It's me that posted the question. Because I have a child with ASD, sometimes he throws tantrums, and I don't know how to deal with it safely because there are also other 29 students in the class.
Okay.
So he is, or they are in it's a year 3 class in the
Okay.
primary. So as a teacher, I want to ensure that the 29 others are safe and not
Mhm.
being traumatized
Mhm.
because he would scream, and though he has an LSA in the
Okay.
class, but sometimes as a teacher, I don't know how to deal with it. What adequate support or
Mhm.
that would be meaningful to the child himself and also as well as to my other 29.
Yeah, okay. So first, can you identify why is he throwing tantrums? I mean, do you think that it's related to specific triggers or specific things that might affect him in the class, or it's not related to specific factors?
One way or another, it's like that. When we identify the triggers, most likely that the LSA was not inclined to give him what he likes. Like, for example, device is not device time.
Mhm.
So what happens is the LSA will just pull him out of the class and gives him some free time to get some fresh air outside the class.
Okay, okay. So yeah, first thing is that we have to identify these triggers and we have to work on them so we can eliminate these triggers. And one approach that we can use with children to prevent tantrums is to use a visual schedule for him. So a visual schedule will let him observe all the tasks that he has to do during his day. So he will feel more organized, and he will have a structure of how the tasks are gonna progress during his day, and this will reduce the presence of the tantrums. So two things we have to do. First, to eliminate the triggers and to work on the triggers. And second thing is to provide a structure for the tasks or for the things he needs to do in the classroom.
Oh, okay. I think I think that makes sense to provide him the physical or a schedule for his
Mhm.
routine during the class. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that would work. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Okay, anyone else would like to ask more questions?
Hi.
Hi, hi,
Yeah, good evening.
good evening.
My question over here is when you say that some children they don't like things like sand, or if we paint them they don't like this. So it's about I just want to understand, is there any kind of formal test for these kind of children, those who don't like these kind of things, any sensory things or listening, loud things, and
Mhm.
at what age these kind of tests can be taken?
Yeah, so usually with children who have sensory avoidance or who do not, who have sensory issues or sensory avoidance or who do not accept to touch specific texture, usually we recommend a NOTI assessment. So we recommend they should be seen by an occupational therapy, and the occupational therapist will conduct an OT assessment, a complete OT assessment.
في 46 شخص يا محمد بهذا الترين.
Yeah, so
عن الأوتستيك
uh, excuse me.
تعتقد رح يبعتوا سيرتيفيكيت؟ ما بعتقد.
Yes, so yeah, usually we should conduct an OT assessment. And it's not related to a specific age. OT can be recommended at any age, starting 2 years old. And so we can start with OT assessment in early intervention, maybe until school age year, and sometimes with adolescents and teenager.
أنا رايحة هون.
Hiba.
Okay, so I don't know if I have answered your question or you would like to know more about the sensory issues in children.
Is it possible for you to enable the chat so that we can pose the questions over there?
Okay, so yeah, maybe you can post the questions, and after I finish the presentation, we can go through them. Okay, so it's not okay.
So once again, you are saying NOT test.
Yeah, OT assessment. Should be
OT
seen-
assessment. Oh,
yeah,
okay, okay. Thank you
he
so
should be
much.
yeah, he should be seen by an occupational therapist. Okay, so can you access the chat now or it's not working?
No, it's not working.
Ah, it's not working. Okay, so for all the participants or only for you, Miss? So for all the participants, it's not working. You cannot access it.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So I will just maybe we have some technical issues. I will just follow up with the team, and maybe if you cannot type it in the chat, so we can just ask me the question and I will answer it at the end. Okay, so let's go back to
Hello.
hi.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is Lena from KidSpot. I would just like to ask, how can we support children with sensory processing disorder after we identify the trigger? For instance, we know that the task is challenging for them. What type of tasks can we provide? Or if the child is too tired, how can we target and help children with fatigue or with the environment? If the class has so many children and the child has to stay in class, How can we support them in that manner?
Yeah, so here in this case, maybe we can. So again, we have to with children who have sensory processing issues. So we have to go for the OT assessment, and after the OT assessment, most of the time an OT treatment will be recommended. So a treatment provided by an occupational therapy will be recommended because we need to treat the symptoms that affect the children. So I mean, with OT treatment, we will observe that we will see that these symptoms will be less observed. And I know in the class sometimes we have to provide the child with technical support. So maybe we can go for an environment which is less crowded. Maybe we can go for the small group with the child, or maybe we can be sure that the environment where he's staying is not overwhelming for him. So maybe we can reduce the auditory and the visual input in the classroom. So usually these things might reduce the sensory challenges, and but the most important thing is to go for the OT treatment. And so yeah, so here in this slide, I'm going to talk about other therapies that you can use to support children with SPD. So I think that this technique and these therapies can also be helpful in the classroom setting. So these therapies usually are provided by an occupational therapist. So the first approach is called the floor time method. So it involves multiple sessions of play with the child and parent, and the play sessions last about 20 minutes. So that's what I was trying to explain, that usually in OT sessions, opportunities for play are provided for the children so that they can discover and overcome the sensory challenges they have by having the opportunity to experience, for example, different textures or different auditory input. So during the sessions, parents are asked to follow the child's lead, even if the playtime behavior is not typical. For example, if a child is rubbing the same spot on the floor over and over, we can just allow him to do this, just to enter his word, and later on we can provide him with more rules and or with more challenges. So yeah, this is following by a second phase where parents use the play sessions to create challenges for the child. So the challenges help pull the child in a shared word with the parent, and the challenges create opportunities for the child to master important skills in areas such as communicating and thinking. So first we have to follow his leads, and gradually we need to introduce more challenges for him. And at home, other ideas for home or for the class. We can, for example, just to avoid, for example, at home, to avoid travel meltdowns with parents, we can learn how to make a sensory travel kit. In class, maybe we can use sensory toys with children just to help them release that sensory challenges. We can also provide other indoor activities, sensory indoor activities that can help release that tension related to difficulties at the level of sensory input. And yeah, so providing sensory activities in the classroom, it might be helpful for the child.
Excuse me, miss.
Yeah.
Can you please tell me what is this download 6 week holiday? What is that? 6 week holiday planner for kids with sensory issues? Is it on your website?
Yeah, so yeah, the main idea is to provide the child with a visual schedule that help him have an idea about the planning of his week or the planning of the month. So it's about organizing his day or organizing his month using a visual schedule.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Um, okay, let me share the file again. So yeah, in this presentation, I think I have covered the most frequent challenges that we find in school age children, which are autism, dyslexia, and ADHD and sensory processing disorder. And we try to explain some strategies that can be used with children, some practical strategies that can be used with children. Uh, now we came to the end of this webinar. I would like to thank you all for your engagement and for your active listening. And before we go to the Q&A section, I would just like to transition to the services we provide at Hope Abilitation Medical Center. So at Hope Abilitation Medical Center, we provide speech therapy sessions, occupational therapy sessions, ABA and PT sessions with children with challenges and difficulties. And now let's go to the Q&A section. I'm ready to hear your questions. Okay, so first I will start by reading the questions that are in the chat. So first question, as an LSA, how can one overcome the challenges of a child who likes to disturb the class in teaching period, distracting other students, and when you want to caution him or pull him out for one-on-one session, he disagreed and continues to throw tantrums. So yeah, it's the same thing we have mentioned. First, we have to identify the trigger or the factor that leads to this behavior. Then you will work on the trigger, and one thing that can help the children is to provide him with a visual schedule that help him organize himself, or that can help with the transitions between the activity. So someone has asked me about, I have a child who has developmental and social difficulty. How can I deal with him? So it was asked by Asif Bey. I don't know if you could explain more, please, so that I can answer your question. Yeah, I'll try to go through the chat. So yeah. Okay, so I tried to go through the question in the chat. I don't know if you have other questions, maybe we can, you can either type them or ask them directly if you are able to unmute yourself.
Miss, can I take this opportunity to ask my question?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. As a, I have a child that has ASD, and he could not, he does not have eye contact, and he cannot comprehend, very less comprehension and focus. So, as a teacher, how should I reach that child and establish good relationship and rapport?
Okay, so Miss Rema, he's verbal or he's non-verbal?
He is verbal, but most of gibberish words. Not communicating or answering questions, not giving feedbacks. So with one way or another, he would answer anytime he likes it, and he would remember facts.
Okay, so you mean he has limited verbal skills?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so you might use the one word utterance or sentences of two words to express himself, and he has limited receptive skills ability, and he doesn't use eye contact. That's it, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So and now you are facing challenges with him when it comes to communicating with him in the classroom setting and asking him to complete tasks. So what is your main challenge with him?
I'm just thinking just to establish good rapport with him, gain his confidence, and then from there, I think when he feels that he trusts me, then I think he will be able to at least do something with our class activities.
Okay. So yeah, for the moment, he doesn't accept to do the activities suggested in the class. He's not interested and doesn't cooperate.
Yeah, most likely he disagrees or he doesn't do the work, because he doesn't feel good about it. So I'm just waiting when he feels good, then I'll just leave his
Yeah.
beside him.
Okay. Yes. So yeah, I agree with you. First, we have to build a good rapport with him. So we can use encourage. We have to encourage him, and we have to provide him with the. Uh, so yeah, first thing we have to encourage him, and whenever he does anything the way we want him to do it, we can provide a positive reinforcement. So a positive reinforcement, it can be a verbal reinforcement, such as clapping hands and using our verbal expressions to show him that we are happy or we appreciate what he has done, and we can use other type of reinforcement such as for example with some children we can use like stickers and tokens. So every time he continue a specific task, he will get a token, and whenever he will have a specific number of tokens, he will get he'll be praised. So yeah, so basically we have to encourage him. We have to praise him, and we have to provide him with a reinforcement. And one more thing that can help him is to follow, is to provide him with activities that that are within his skills. For example, if he has limited attention skills for the moment, we should not ask him to focus for a long time. So we have to follow his rhythm, and then gradually starting to make the activity more complicated.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for the insights. Yeah, I'm thinking that to apply, and we'll see the feedback impact on him.
Okay, you're welcome. So anyone else would like to ask me more questions, or would like to know more about challenges that are present in the classroom setting?
Hi, Miss Hiba. Can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yeah, I hear you. I
Hi.
can hear you.
I am Miss Mika. I work with FS1 students,
Mhm.
and I have a child who he's autistic, been diagnosed in his home country, but not necessarily in the UAE. He's nonverbal, super bright, very interested in numbers and literacy, anything regarding literacy.
Mhm.
But the biggest challenge with him is socially, he is not interested in any activities in a group setting.
Mhm.
And his parents are hoping for improvement in that area, but he only follows his own flow. Even if I try to work with him one-on-one, if he's not interested, I don't get anything from him. So I guess my question is just, how do I try to keep him engaged, kind of invite him into a group setting? And also, how do I communicate that with the mother in a sensitive way? Because I haven't seen much progress in the social behavior, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, so it's an interesting question, and it's a challenge that we face with the children with ASD. One, it's the engagement within the group setting. So first, before I answer your question, you said that he's non-verbal, and he's good in one-to-one setting, right?
Better in one-to-one for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
But nonverbal, yes.
Non-verbal. Okay. Um, so
Can I just add, sorry, he's very happy. Like he will have these outbursts of clapping hands and laughing on his own.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
he seems happy, but I am just struggling to get him within a group. So
Okay. Yeah, so actually, usually children who have autism might have difficulty interacting with other children within a group setting for different reasons. So one reason is that they might have limited communication skills and limited verbal expression skills or receptive language skills. So maybe it's difficult for him to understand the instructions that are given to him within the group setting. So if we can use visual support for the instructions that we're gonna use in the group setting, so it could be beneficial for him. So let's say he will join a group. He will join a group where he has to, for example, to do a writing activity, for example, or to do a play-based activity such as playing with the sand. So maybe we can use a pictogram, or maybe we can use pictures that explain the task that we are going to do. So it could be one strategy to use the visual support to let him understand what do we need to do. And one other thing is that we can go for the social skills therapy group, which is an approach that we use with children with autism or children who have social communication difficulties. So we recommend social skill therapy that is usually conducted by a speech therapist or an occupational therapist, just to work on basic communication skills such as greeting, even if the child is nonverbal, greeting and requesting and asking for help, but it will be done within a group, so it's not going to be an individual treatment session.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. I think we came to the end of this webinar. Thank you for joining me in this webinar, and I hope that the information we shared today is going to be helpful for you in the classroom setting to help children with special needs. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. Thank you all for your listening and for your engagement. Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you, Ms. Hiba.
Thank you.